It's yours. Hop in.
LeBaron.
Bet your boots. It's LeBaron.
Look, it says #1 son on the license plate. That's me. I'm the #1 son.
It's never easy to let go.
You make your daddy proud. You hear me?
I'm gonna make you so proud.
You make your daddy proud.
Proud. Get the out of the way!
Are you really excited about starting to work at the sandwich factory tomorrow?
Hello? Can you hear me? There's probably people at the factory that have been making cheese sandwiches their entire lives, and they're gonna look at me, and they're gonna call me a loser. Ooh, you can't hurt me! Not with my cheese helmet! Hello? Hello?
He couldn't handle the complexities of making a cheese sandwich, so now he's back at home.
Found a treasure.
That's soap on a roll. Are you imbecile?
Oh no, the treasure! It went into that underwater cave!
He thinks different.
You want to just barge into a restaurant and expect someone to give you a TV show? I don't know, yeah?
He talks different.
I can walk backwards fast as you can. Another backwards man, the backwards man. I can walk backwards fast as you can.
What? God, name are you doing?
And he acts different.
No, not my plan. Give me my plan.
But that's only because he is
I wasn't expecting that to happen.
You miserable, pathetic loser.
Is this your dad?
That's my phone. Ah!
Regency Enterprises presents Tom Green,
He's a stupid!
Not stupid.
He's a stupid!
Not stupid.
He's stupid!
Not stupid.
Freddy Got Fingered.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I still have some work to do. Daddy, would you like some sausage? Daddy, would you like some sausage?
We're real proud of him.
I think I could have come up with a better title.
Welcome to They Call This a Movie, testing the strength of friendships one terrible movie at a time. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes podcast services by searching They Call This a Movie, and find us on Twitter and Instagram at TicTamPod. That's TCTAM Pod. Welcome back to They Call This a Movie. This is Anthony Delvecchio. With me, as always, is Dan Aquino and Mark Myers. Say hello, gentlemen.
Hey, friends.
Hello, everyone. While watching the movie we watched for today, I think I realized, and maybe you guys agree with me, that I think my younger version from this time period would absolutely hate my older version, and I would be annoyed by that person. Like, it just realized, like, oh, is this what we found funny? Like,
so your younger version would hate your older version?
Yeah, because I wouldn't be laughing at this movie.
But your younger version would laugh at this movie.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it.
You get it now. Yeah, like the whole time I was watching, I was sitting back going, wow, like this movie made like $7 or $8 million or something, and it's like I don't get it. But it just made me think, like, all those, I don't want to go back and watch some of the other things that haven't aged well. To just
my younger self would be happy that his older self got laid. That's pretty much the only difference there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be the one thing I'd be able to lord over younger self.
Getting laid is awesome, right? High five, everybody. We did it. We overcame.
Mm-hmm.
It will happen, trust me.
And overcome. Get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
With a U.
Oh, shit. I didn't know what you were talking about. You got me.
Yeah. My 16-year-old version myself wouldn't have found this movie funny.
Surprisingly, I think my younger version also wouldn't have found this movie funny, because my younger self did not like the person that was in this movie. Like, he never, I don't know, I'm speaking as if he's a different person. I never got the appeal of the main character, the actor.
You could say Tom Green.
Oh, I thought we were like, oh, see, now everyone's the surprise is ruined.
It's the name of the title of the movie is in is in the episode podcast title.
Oh, well.
We don't need to. Yeah, just quit the foreplay. Tom Green is in this movie.
It's Tom Green.
Just stick it in and get it over with, Dan.
I never
You want to fuck me?
I never understood Tom Green. I didn't get his appeal as a kid. So yeah, I think my younger self. Well, this is the first time I've ever seen the movie, so clearly my younger self was not interested in anything this man had to offer.
I guess that's a good indication because we were in the right age to, if we wanted to see this movie, we would have seen this already. Because I come from a place where I've also not seen this movie.
Yeah, I don't remember if I've seen this before, but I did have a moment where I was really like the "Bum Is on My Lips" song.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was in the opposite wheelhouse probably to this type of humor. But yeah, it's like totally like I just sat and stared at this. Like there wasn't anything that made me chuckle at all, and I'm just like, how did this? But anyway, it just made me think about that. Like it to me at least, sometimes I have these philosophical thoughts on here. Just like it's the things that you realize, like how long ago certain things were and how much you've changed in that time frame, and sometimes it just doesn't feel like it. And this stupid ass movie that made no sense made me think about those things today, and for that I hate Tom Green.
Okay, sure. Well, we might as well get into it. This week was my pick, and this is a movie that we've had on the schedule for a long time and kept getting pushed down the schedule, partially because it was my pick, so I was okay with moving my pick out of the way for movies and different reasons for certain things. We had guests on, or we wanted to have like holiday picks or something like that. And then second part of it was just that I was dreading this movie. I could have easily have taken it off, but I knew eventually we should cover this film. The film is Freddy Got Fingered from 2001, starring and directed by and written by one Mr. Tom Green from the Great White North, Canadian himself. And I want to hear where you guys are coming from this. So Dan, where are you coming from with Freddy Got Fingered?
So, as stated, I'd never seen this movie before. Obviously heard about it, being the target demographic, as stated earlier as well. For purposes of this podcast, and I know this is going to sound kind of far-fetched, but this is a top 5 worst movies we've ever watched, I think.
Sure.
I agree with that.
Okay, I'm happy to hear that. I thought I was going to get a little pushback, because we've seen some real bad ones. But this is just... It's a movie that was really something where an executive at the studio was... Maybe their kid was watching Tom Green or something. I'm like, well, I don't know why kids like him, but they like him, so let's give him money. Because I can't understand why this movie would have been made.
This has to be the height or the end time period of Tom Green's popularity, right?
Yeah, probably, because the Tom Green show probably aired late 90s, right?
Yeah,
97, 98.
Yeah, this is when he was married or dating Drew Barrymore. I don't know if they'd gotten that far yet by the time this movie came out.
Well, this movie came out in August of 2001. They divorced in 2002.
Okay, so they were probably married by now.
I think they were married. What a awesome romance that was.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think, again, I never understood Tom Green, but his effects are still felt today, I think, without people knowing it, because the Tom Green show was basically the first, or one of the first viral types of shows where he would just, for people who don't know his show at all, he would just run into crowds and just do obnoxious videos. So that's like TikTok now, where people film themselves dancing to eating food or just doing random videos, obviously. That was Tom Green. So Tom Green, his was more heightened, but he was definitely a pioneer in that area. So, again, I didn't like his humor, and as a 13-year-old, you would think right up my alley. But I didn't understand it. Him sucking on cow udders and just like really going out of his way to bother people. I hated him to be honest. I think nowadays he's like, I think he has a somewhat successful podcast that he does, and he's just a normal guy now. So,
Yeah, he definitely seems like one of those like more of a smart comedian in the sense that he did something, it got popular, and he's like, I'm just going to ride this into the ground and make all the money I can, sort of thing. And just it was all a persona. Is what it very much felt to me.
yeah, you could definitely see it was he had to turn it on for the cameras. I don't know what he was like in his personal life, but this was just him to the nth degree. This movie, just real quick, I'll run down a couple of things that I wrote. I didn't write much because this movie is just such it's so scatterbrained that it's hard to really pinpoint things. There's the scenes go on far too long. There's a lot of scenes that just drag on for what feels like an eternity. There is some good songs in it. There are some good needle drops in it. There's I'm a Hustler Baby. There's some Green Day in there.
The Eminem at the end.
Oh, the real Slim Shady, right?
Yeah.
I think this was basically an allegory for him getting handed. Well, I think it was like $14 million. So
something like that.
Yeah, him getting handed $14 million and just saying, well, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want. And it's like a fuck you to the studio, essentially, because that's what the story is. He gets money at one point and just blows it on stupid stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand why this movie is kind of getting a little bit of notoriety now. In the past few years, I've seen some other podcasts talk highly about it. It goes over my head. I don't get it.
Okay. Mark, what about you? Where you come from?
Yeah,
Freddy
so
Got Fingered.
like I said, I did, from what I remember, watch the Tom Green show, which started in like 99 as I'm looking through IMDb here, and song, but I don't know if maybe by 2001, I had sort of thrown out of it a little bit, and that's why I didn't see the movie. But yeah, it's just, I think, like, I don't mind, like, shock, like, surprise humor, like, can be good, you know, just like weird, odd things. I mean, Always Sunny does it a bunch where things just come out of nowhere on there, but everything on that show feels like it was thought out before they just all of a sudden, you know, have some crazy thing happen in the episode. This just felt like he was like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if I jacked off an elephant? And they filmed him jacking off an elephant. Like, there was no other thought behind it. As Dan said, it felt like he just lit $14 million on fire. It felt like an even worse mistake that people probably couldn't get back on than chairman of the board, because Tom basically wrote and did everything here. It wasn't like written for him or a group of people thinking they could propel, you know, Carrot Top. This was all, oh, Tom Green's a star. You know, if we give him everything, he's going to do well. And then Tom Green went a little too far with it. And I think really it was somebody getting a little too confident in the weird humor and not realizing the place for it, and just thought anything he did would turn to gold, and kind of got into the find out phase of fucking around and finding out. And yeah, it was just completely, I literally halfway through the movie started to do my dishes and felt like I missed nothing. Like, TV was on in the background while I did my dishes, came back, felt like I didn't miss a thing. And that's not good even when you're doing a comedy like this. Like, you shouldn't be able to walk away for 5-10 minutes and then, you know, still feel confident that you understand what's going on. And it felt very time and place in terms of the jokes they made, obviously. A lot of the stuff wouldn't fly today, especially a lot of Rip Thorne's dialogue and stuff like that. It was just very, like, it wasn't even bad enough to, like, poke fun at. And even the stuff that I kind of remembered from the advertising, like the sausage thing, wasn't even that funny, and they led with that a lot. And yeah, it was just deeply disappointing of a time and place thing. It was probably the last bastion of pre 9/11 stuff, with you saying, you know, they're releasing in August of that year, of a time when, you know, things were just different. and it was real bad, real bad. And the number one thing that I found out watching this movie, Tom Green's character is not named Freddy. Did not know that. Thought he'd be the titular Freddy.
That surprised me as well.
He is not.
When they said his name was Gordy, I was like, wait a minute, then who's Freddy?
Yeah, and that storyline is just the one thing I'll say is the one like good joke I could see in a writer's room is the fact that when they take Freddy away after they say he got abused, and then he shows up, in the school for kids who have been abused, and he's a grown adult in there, and all of them are kids, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of fun that they would not like they would keep it that way instead of like putting them in an actual mental hospital or whatever. Yeah, I'm like, okay, I can see how that would have worked on paper, but that felt like that was probably suggested by someone else because it didn't have any of the weird stuff that Tom Green did in it. And yeah, it was, I wish there was a little coherency to it. Even a thin storyline, even Chairman of the Board had some kind of thin thread that connected the entire movie. This was just about his dad not believing in him, and then he starts believing in himself because the girl does the rocket-powered wheelchair, and that's about it. Everything else that happens in the movie has no bearing on anything.
Okay. As for me, never saw this before. Was not a big Tom Green fan when I was a kid, even though I was probably in the right demographic. I was 16 when this movie came out. I wanted to watch this movie because, as Dan mentioned, there is some sort of re-looking at this movie in a different light, and people saying it's ahead of it was ahead of its time and stuff like that, kind of absurdist, kind of non-jokes almost. And I went into this looking at it like that and was generally open-minded about this movie. I did know its reputation as being a pretty terrible movie, but I was open-minded that this was going to be maybe just kind of absurd and just not in the 2010s it would have been perfect or something like that. There is a better version of this movie, and it's called Hot Rod.
Yes.
That's pretty good.
It's a very similar plot in terms of the father-son dynamic, and Rip Torn just being Rip Torn. Instead it's Ian McShane being Ian McShane. But that's a movie that works. And it's absurd. It doesn't go for the gross out stuff, doesn't go for the shock value stuff, but it does what I think Freddy Got Fingered is trying to do and doesn't successfully do it. It's kind of funny that way, that how close they are, how similar they are in terms of that stuff. I feel like it is a movie, and you guys have kind of already mentioned it, of like someone said, here, Tom Green, here's $14 million. And he says, I'm going to make you regret giving me this $14 million. It's exactly what it feels like. He grabs a horse by the dick in this film, and it was released by 20th Century Fox.
Some lighthearted bestiality.
Yeah. I am not confident that deer that he runs around with is not real.
I was worried about that too. Like, was that... when he cuts the deer open, is that real?
It looked really fucking real.
It did, and I don't put it past Tom Green to use an actual deer carcass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was wild.
Like, kids don't understand the length Tom Green would go to get a reaction from people. It's not like today where there's standards. Back in 2001, times were different. We hadn't been attacked yet.
Yeah. We were living high off the pig, man.
We definitely were. Tom Green, he was ruling the comedy landscape.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was literally, looking at it, like the end of his run.
This is like the 9/11 of his run.
Yeah, he does this, and then he gets Stealing Harvard with Jason Lee, another guy who probably regrets doing a movie with Tom Green.
But he was also in Road Trip, which again
was before this.
Okay, it was before this. So was that 2000?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So that movie, while not great, at least had a plot you could follow, characters that were somewhat well written, and he was just such a minor part in it that I'm assuming if that movie did well, they were like, oh well, there's a common denominator there. The kids love Tom Green. That movie did well. People probably saw it because of Tom Green.
Yeah. It's like the Zach Galifianakis effect, right? He's a small role in The Hangover, steals the show. So they're like, okay, let's put him in a leading role for the next 3 years, right?
Yeah.
Tom Green didn't last that as long though, but it is that kind of effect. Yeah. But yeah, it feels like this movie is it's sort of meta, as we mentioned, because he outwardly points out, I blew half my money on a helicopter. And that's essentially what he does in this movie. He blew half the money probably on renting a helicopter for no reason. Because he could, because he had $14 million. This movie did not need $14 million.
No, not at all.
You could have made this movie on 2, probably.
Yeah, I mean, wherever you fall on the Kevin Smith scale, that guy rarely makes movies that go past or even close to 14 million.
I wonder, there had to have been a lot of panic at the 20th Century Fox studios when they're seeing the dailies. I was like, we sank 14 million into this, and this guy is whipping out a fake dick on a conveyor belt and slapping his giant ham dick against other people on the conveyor belt.
Yeah.
Right, you'd have to imagine there was some sort of panic button was hit at that point.
There's extended scenes of 2 horses fucking in this movie.
Yep.
That's a good point. And him eating a sandwich like a fucking lunatic.
Yeah. This feels like this feels like giving a meth head like your front door keys. Right.
And expecting him to be a good house guest.
Yeah. Expecting him to do the dishes. Like, fuck, no, I'm selling your goddamn dishes.
Yeah. Then I'm taking a dump on your couch.
Yeah, it's wild. I did not enjoy this movie one bit. I think I'm not at the age where I could look at this and say, oh, it's so absurd. It's hilarious. I think another person that does this sort of thing better, Eric Andre. The Eric Andre show is kind of, the Tom Green show walked so Eric Andre show could run, essentially. And I think there's more substance to the shit he does. I don't know what that substance is, but it's not jerking off a horse, I suppose.
Using dead animals as a cape.
Yeah.
I think it almost feels as if he's trying to do like a satire of comedy.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know what the point is.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is it because there's a couple of scenes where he has real heart-to-heart conversations with characters. Like he has a heart-to-heart conversation with Freddy about how Freddy is how he's supposed to be dazzled by Freddy's job at the bank, but he's trying to chase his dreams. And he also has a heart-to-heart with his father at one point about trying to make him proud. So it's like there's a semblance of a plot that he was trying to poke through there. So I don't know if he was trying to satirize that type of movie where like the father-son clash.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's just immediately broken up by him yelling or Rip Torn yelling.
Yeah.
Someone getting blood splattered on them.
Yeah, I know. Oh, the stuff with Andy kind of. I'm a guy that loves committing to the bit, and I'm kind of glad they did commit to that bit with the little kid, constantly getting hit in the face.
That was funny. I kind of enjoyed that.
That was the one laugh I had is when he comes up after hitting his head on the car and just a bloody mess.
Yeah.
Screaming.
Yeah, that was a good bit. I'll give him that with that kid. But I even though it's the title of the movie, this movie could work if you just remove the whole sexual assault part or child abuse.
Do you think that takes this movie down?
No, what I mean is that it doesn't. If he's trying to tell a story of him and his father, trying to get acceptance from his dad, the whole accusing, like that whole section, just doesn't fit.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying it's not useless. I'm just saying, this movie is bad without it.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying, like you could have. What is that? That'll make this in your wheelhouse thing of like 120 minutes or something. You know, if
Yeah,
you
this is just
take
north
out,
of it. It's an hour and 27, I think.
yeah, so you take the 5-7 minutes of the whole child abuse, child sexual assault thing out, and the movie still stitches together because they, outside of the few scenes where they cut back to what the wife's doing and Freddy being in that child home, it has no effect on him and Rip Torn, really, from what I could tell. You know, outside of they scream and holler at each other, but you could have just replaced that with something else. They were screaming and hollering at each other.
You could just add another scene of him skateboarding in slow motion.
Yeah.
For no reason.
Tom Green just wanted to show that he could skateboard.
Yeah, that's the only thing, right? Because the first scene is him skateboarding through a mall, and it does nothing. It doesn't establish the plot, or it doesn't move the story forward. It has no semblance of reason. It's just, yeah, I can skateboard.
Yep. So, Freddy Got Fingered from 2001 is written and directed by star himself Tom Green. It also stars Tom Green, Rip Torn, Marissa Coughlan, Eddie K. Thomas, Harland Williams, Anthony Michael Hall, and Julie Haggerty. IMDb score of 4.6, Rotten Tomato score of 11%. Budget $14 million. Box office $14.3 million. So I think it's said that it made some good money on the DVD market.
Yeah, it made what, half of its budget back on opening weekend, and then just didn't have any retention, from what I could tell.
I'm curious to see what Tom Green thinks about this movie today. I'm sure he's commented on it in recent history, but because it must be hard for him to escape it. This is the only movie that he was the lead in.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure he's talked about it. I don't know if he has fond memories of it. That's the only question. Did he enjoy making it? Was it a burden? Is he happy is he proud of it? I don't know.
I would say that this is exactly the movie that he set out to make.
So you think he'd be proud?
I don't know if he'd be proud is an interesting word. I would say he would probably say that he made a movie with what seems to be minimal studio interference, had to be, and he made a movie. And whether or not that was he made a movie solely to make them regret that they gave him the money to make a movie, it's entirely possible, because I don't see another point to this film.
Yeah, I think it was just right place, right time for Tom Green.
He had his star for however brief.
Yeah,
he seems like a nice guy in general, though.
Yeah, he was on a podcast that I used to listen to, and he was basically talking about how when he became so big, he was in his 20s. So he was basically saying, in your 20s, you don't really have a point of view on life yet. You think you do, but you're not experienced enough. So at that point in his life, his stand-up was just obnoxious, saying outrageous things. Now in his 40s, and I think he's in his 40s, he has a point of view on life. So his comedy is much more it's pointed in one direction, not just all over the place.
Mm-hmm. He's actually in his 50s at this point.
Oh, there you go. So now basically he's just saying that his comedy has grown. He's grown at this point. It's not just him being a moron.
Mm-hmm. You guys want to get into the plot?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Dan, what you got?
Real quick, guys, as I say every week, just would love for you guys to go and check out 2 friends of the podcast. First one, we've had her on a bunch of times. She's great. Tia and her podcast, The Top 10 with Tia. Her and Brittany go over the top 10 lists of the week. So if you like that sort of thing, please go over to geekvibesnation.com, search The Top 10 with Tia, and it should pop right up. And the second podcast that I would love for you guys to check out is the Game Vault podcast, starring our very own Mark Myers. It is a bi-weekly podcast where Mark and his 2 other co-hosts, Tom and Jenny, talk about games they're playing, video game news, upcoming games, and going over their Retro Roulette Game of the Week, which is an old school game from way back yonder in the Nintendo, Super Nintendo era, and so forth. So if you like video games, go check them out. It's a lot of fun. They know what they're talking about. You can follow them on all socials at Game Vault Pod, and they also stream on Twitch at Game Vault Podcast.
Okay, great. And we're going to take a quick break, and you guys are going to listen to messages from friends of the podcast. So we will be right back.
Hey, this is Ken M.
And Padawan J.
from the ODPH podcast.
Each week, we talk a parlay of topics.
That's right. Whether it's sports, pro wrestling, movies, TV, comics, and more, we've got a take on it.
And don't forget, odphpodcast.com for links for Patreon, TeePublic, and the Parlay Points blogs, and much more.
Thanks for listening to the ODPH podcast. Now back to your regularly scheduled show.
You know I don't know I was so damn
Welcome, travelers. Seems like you're looking for a story. Well, I got one for you. It involves adventure, friendship, and all sorts of...
Earl, why don't you tell him about that time I stole that big-ass melon?
Yeah, I was going for more...
Or you could tell him about the time I kicked her ass, Earl.
I wouldn't ever tell him.
Do I need to get my ref gear on?
Okay, everyone, shut up. Now come with me as I tell you a story from afar. Hey everybody, my name's David. I'm the DM for From Afar Podcast. From Afar Podcast is all about four friends separated by distance, but brought together by adventure. Hope you all stop by and give us a listen. Thanks.
And welcome back. Now it's time to get into plot 4, Freddy Got Fingered. We open on some of Tom Green's drawings of his comic hero X-Ray Cat, as well as some other characters. And this is Gordon, our hero, a man-child, who then skateboards down the street into the mall, where he gets chased by some security guards. This might just be a chance for Tom Green to show off that he can actually skateboard. And then he skateboards all the way to the bus station, where he meets his parents to leave to go to Los Angeles to take a job at a cheese sandwich factory. But he wants to go to LA to become a famous cartoonist like Charles Schultz, which he mentions several times. As he gets on the bus, his parents tell him that they got him a car to take him to Los Angeles, making the whole trip to the bus station a complete waste of time.
I had that written down. Why would you get him a bus ticket if you're going to buy him a car?
Just subverting the expectations.
Just for the bit.
Right.
His brother Freddy gets upset because he didn't get a car, and then they squabble over who's the number one son. So Gordon is off to LA.
Real quick, I will say I laughed at this scene where they try to have a touching moment between Rip Torn and Tom Green. They're like, I'm going to make you proud. I'll be proud. I'm going to make you proud. And then when he goes to speed away, these people walk in front of the car. He's like, get the fuck out of the way. Oh yeah, that made me actually laugh out loud. So I got worried. It's like, oh God, am I going to like this movie?
Do you think that
quickly dashed?
Do you think this was like the Dustin Hoffman moment where that was completely like real and not part of the script?
No, I don't think there was a whole lot of ad-libbing in that sense. Like maybe between him and Rip Torn there might have been, but other than that, I don't think that was ad-libbed. It could have been though, but in my opinion, no.
Like the extra walked in front of the car,
Maybe. He does almost run over a goat at the very end of the movie. So it's very possible that these people were unaware they were filming.
On the way to LA, he stops by a stud farm so Tom Green can grab a horse by the dick, and continues on his way to LA and goes to his job at the cheese sandwich factory. After doing a good job annoying his coworkers, Gordon sneaks into the offices of a cartoon producer and tells the producer's assistant, played by Drew Barrymore, that the producer's wife is dead and he needs to find him to tell him. So Drew Barrymore tells Gordon the restaurant that the producer's having lunch at, and Gordon goes there dressed as an English Bobby to harass the producer, played by Anthony Michael Hall. The producer looks at his drawings, tells him that they suck because they don't make any sense. Specifically says you have to get inside the animals, and that he should quit his shitty cheese sandwich factory job if he wants to be an animator, and then the producer drives off. So Gordon starts driving back home to Portland when he comes across a dead deer, so he takes the producer's advice literally and cuts the deer open and starts rolling around with it.
Yeah, really, I guess maybe they do it again. I was going to say, like, foreshadowing that occurs, like, literally in the next scene. I think it happens one more time. But...
No, not having seen this movie, I knew exactly what was going to happen as soon as Anthony Michael Hall tells Tom Green you have to be inside of the animal. You could just tell, he's going to like cut open an animal and sleep inside it or something.
Yeah.
Or he was going to fuck an animal.
Yeah,
like those are the only two ways he was going to actually take it.
Exactly. And that's
stop
the thing,
off at that horse farm.
That would have been an interesting, well, not interesting. You would think that would be the way the movie goes, right? Like, the horse that he jerked off 2 scenes prior, he'll go back and like fuck it. But no, he decides to wear a dead deer as a a hat.
Yep. So where's the deer? And then he is promptly hit by a truck. I did laugh a little bit at just how far his body slid across the street.
He went pretty far. He probably went like the length of a football field.
That kind of made me laugh.
I was hoping he would have been killed in that.
That's the end of the movie.
And that's the end of the movie.
That'd be the greatest, like, best kept secret. That if, like, the rest of Freddy Got Fingered is just all black.
Yeah, for another 45 minutes. Yeah, or it starts following the rest of the family after he's dead.
That would have been a huge fuck you. Imagine that.
That's a way better punk rock movie.
Right? Tom Green gets $14 million to make a Tom Green movie. He kills himself off in the first 15 minutes. And then, I don't know, it's like Ordinary People or something like that. It's a family coming to the grips with the death of their son.
Because you could also have Rip Torn just slowly descending into madness because of the loss of his child.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, like he never got to reconcile with Gordy. So it just eats away at him.
Yeah. That'd be something.
And maybe he does molest Freddy because of it.
That got dark, but yeah.
Well, because there is a fake molestation in this movie.
Yes.
So if we're going gritty and punk.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
See, Tom Green, that's what you should have done. Killed yourself off in the first 15 minutes.
I wonder if that crossed his mind. Probably not.
On the way back home, he watches a couple of horses fuck. And when he gets home, a neighbor kid runs over to his car, trips, it cracks his head clear open in a bloody mess against the car door. And at dinner, he gets mad because his parents only eat roast beef, so he grabs a chicken sandwich out of his bag. But his dad throws the chicken sandwich to the dogs and says Gordon can eat the roast beef or go to bed, so he goes to bed. This is the kind of stuff that happens in this movie.
Yeah.
Has no bearing on it. Rip Torn just gets angrier and angrier as the film goes on.
And yeah, this isn't the only scene where like a dinner gets interrupted.
Yeah. This movie is just a sequence of scenes in which Gordon does something weird and Rip Torn just gets pissed off.
Yeah, he's slowly descending into madness, really.
Yeah. At night, Gordon works on his half pipe with his buddy Harlan Williams. So he starts waking up his dad and his neighbors. Then Harlan Williams immediately breaks his leg trying to skateboard. He goes to visit Harlan at the hospital and winds up talking to a cute doctor at the desk. And he lies and he says he was rich, so she gives him her number. Then she goes to answer a call, and it's revealed that she is in a wheelchair. So he goes in to talk to Harlan Williams about the fact that a girl said yes to a date with him. Then he gets weirded out a little bit by the fact that she was in a wheelchair. Then he knows a pregnant woman to the point where she goes into labor, and he pretends it to be a doctor so that he can deliver the baby, which he does and uses his teeth to cut the umbilical cord and then swings the baby around by said umbilical cord spraying the entire room with blood until he finally gives the baby back to the mom.
Another scene that drags on forever.
Yeah. He gets kicked out of the hospital, but not before he pretends he's some sort of hero in front of the cute Dr. Betty. So he goes to her apartment and finds out she's built herself a rocket-powered wheelchair, and then she gets horny talking about rockets. So then she asks him to hit her in the legs with a bamboo stick. So he hits her a bunch of times in the legs until he hits her in the face, and she gets pissed, but not so pissed that she's not going to suck his dick, even after she finds out the umbilical cord that he taped to himself, which was weird.
What an odd character arc.
Yeah. So she sucks his dick. The next day, his brother Freddy shows up at the house and lambasts Gordon for moving back home. At that moment, Gordon is in the shower, so the dad goes to check on him and finds him in the shower with a scuba suit, doing nothing of any sort of importance. So he throws him through the glass shower door. At breakfast, Freddy tells Gordon that he needs to get a job. So Gordon puts the suit on backwards and tells his dad he got a job. He then goes over to Betty's house where he smacks her legs with a whip in the legs again.
You forgot to let the audience know about Backwards Man.
Oh, I didn't forget.
Oh, God.
That was another thing that played in the previews, too, if I remember correctly.
Backwards Man.
I do remember seeing that a lot. Him going back and forth, saying, I'm the backwards man, I'm the backwards man. Someone actually reached out to me when we posted that we were going to be covering this movie, and they specifically said, I cannot wait for you to see the backwards man. And I can't believe that's something that has stuck with people. A man wearing a suit backwards. You got to check it out, man. That's like top tier comedy.
Yeah. It was a thing. It's a thing he did, and then he said it.
He
That's
did
what's
the thing that he said.
Yeah. Then she tries to suck his dick again, but he wants to go and do stuff like a real couple, so they go to a fancy restaurant and he pretends to make work calls until his dad shows up and they get into a fight and causes a scene, which ultimately leads to Gordon getting arrested. Betty bails him out and she says something that he misinterprets as needing to play music, eat, and do his art at the same time. So this leads to the scene of Daddy, would you like some sausage, which was a heavy part of the marketing, because why wouldn't it be?
Exactly right.
Yeah. And then his dad gets so annoyed with him that he destroys the half pipe with his truck. So they go to family therapy, and in therapy session, Gordon accuses his dad of molesting his brother Freddy, and then jumps out the window.
Yeah,
Freddy gets taken and good.
This whole like the throwing the head out the window first, and I was like, I didn't get where the humor was supposed to be in this scene, to be honest.
I guess just the absurdity of jumping out the window.
Right.
It's not that it's good, but I guess that was supposed to be funny.
Because again, it's there's a formula in this movie where there's a regular scene, or the scene will start out with him being a normal person or trying to have a touching conversation, followed immediately by the most obnoxious thing you've ever seen put to film.
Yeah.
Right. So it's they have the scene where he accuses his father of touching Freddy, and then immediately followed by like, oh, there's weight there. Like, okay, sir, we have to take your child away now. Like, I have the obligation to do that. Immediately followed by Tom Green getting up, throwing a marble bust through the window, and jumping out screaming like a banshee.
Yeah. I do appreciate that this movie is called Freddy Got Fingered, and the accusation doesn't happen until 45 minutes in, and really it has no bearing on the film whatsoever. I do appreciate that.
It's very it's like avant-garde.
Yeah. Freddy gets taken away and put into a group home specifically for sexually assaulted boys, even though he's 25. Later, while Gordon is in his basement working on his drawings, Dad comes in drunk and they start fighting, telling each other, fuck you, until his dad pulls down his pants and tells Gordon to fuck him. The mom walks into this, so she thinks that he's actually molesting the children. His dad calls his artwork shit, and Gordon decides he needs to get a job. So he gets a job at a sandwich shop, and then finds Betty at the airport trying out her rocket wheelchair, and he tells her it's a stupid dream that she should give up, like he gave up his dream. After seeing a television news report on Betty's successful rocket-powered wheelchair, though, Gordon is inspired to pursue his dreams once again. He returns to Hollywood with a concept based on his relationship with his father, an animated series called Zebras in America, which are like half man, half zebras.
They're centaurs, but zebras.
Yep. Jim follows him there after threatening Darren into revealing where he had gone. While Gordon is pitching the show to Davidson, Rip Torn bursts in and trashes Anthony Michael Hall's office. Thinking Rip Torn's actions are part of Gordon's pitch, Anthony Michael Hall greenlights Zebras in America and gives Gordon $1 million check. Gordon spends a quarter of that money on an elaborate thank you to Betty involving a helicopter for inspiring him, and then the remainder to relocate the house to Pakistan with his father inside, unconscious, a response to his dad's earlier put down that if this were Pakistan, you would have been sewing soccer balls when you were 4 years old. That's part of the plot synopsis on IMDb. I don't remember that at all, and I didn't make that connection whatsoever.
I forgot about that completely. It's a very throwaway line, Rip Torn walking away and saying it. Like, you could barely hear him say it.
Yeah. Rip Torn and Gordon soon come to terms, but are then abducted and held hostage by terrorists. Kidnapping becomes a news item, and Gordon's series has already become popular. After 18 months in captivity, Gordon and Rip Torn return to America, where a huge crowd, including Betty, welcomes them home. That's the end of Freddy Got Fingered.
Yeah, one part at that very end is there. I'll have to give him credit for being a little self-deprecating. There's a guy in the audience with a sign that says, "When will this movie end?"
Oh, clever.
And I was like, okay, that's a good self-deprecating joke. But, that's,
Yeah, I completely checked out once they started relocating the house. I was like, all right,
Yeah.
this has to be over soon.
Yeah, I only caught it real fast. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Because I thought the signs would be absurdist and stupid, but they were all like very generic, and then there was that one. So.
Yeah, I wanted to like it because there has been a resurgence of this and people looking at it in a different light. I didn't see it. I just don't think it's funny. It's obnoxious. It's a lot of yelling and just not particularly funny. And it's funny because we've revisited movies around this time that we did enjoy back then that, as far as I'm concerned, still hold up. Joe Dirt, for example, which is a pretty stupid movie. Pootie Tang, which is a pretty stupid movie and pretty absurdist.
Yeah.
I think
that, yeah.
I'm sorry. I was gonna say I think it goes to show the talent pool in the early 2000s was not super deep.
Yeah. But that is Freddy Got Fingered. And we're going to take a quick break. And you guys are going to listen to some ads to pay those bills. And we will be right back. And welcome back. Now it's time to get into the third segment. And this week, third segment is Fantasy Draft. We haven't done one of those in a while. So we are going to Fantasy Draft MTV original programming. So Tom Green, as we mentioned, was on MTV for a while, like 3 or 4 years or something like that. Hugely popular show. And I guess Mark watched it. Neither Dan or I myself have watched it or regularly watched it. But there are plenty of other shows on MTV that I did watch. So we're going to do Fantasy Draft. We're going to pick 4 each. And we'll do snake style. I have already drawn who's going first, second, third. And the order will be myself, followed by Dan, and then Mark. We'll get 2 picks on the snake. So my pick is first. And I am going to pick the other behemoth of a cultural touchstone that MTV has produced. I'm going to go with Jackass as a show that was incredible and is still pretty fucking funny and came out right around the same time as Tom Green. But for some reason, I can tolerate Jackass more than I can tolerate Tom Green.
Yeah, and one of my memories of Jackass 2, I think it's Jackass 2, the movie, is it was one of the first times where I do that laugh where I just can't breathe for a little bit, like crying and really like can't laugh when they have that prank where the devil jumps out from the hole in the sidewalk to scare people. And I literally laughed to the point of almost like hyperventilating. And that was one of the first times I ever did that, and that's stuck in my brain. So that show is the idea of doing absurdist stuff and it still being funny.
Sure. All right. Dan, what about you? First pick.
All right. First pick. I'm going to go with a show that had a good run. My father and I used to watch it a lot. Celebrity Deathmatch, the claymation fighting show.
Okay. That's a good one. Celebrity Deathmatch.
Yeah. The Mills Lane cashed in on his.
I was gonna say very much a time capsule of pop culture in that time period, right? Because like Marilyn Manson was big, Eminem was big, Mills Lane was big. So you had people who were just big at that time period.
I don't know how big of a chunk of our audience, but there's probably going to be at least a handful of people that have no idea who Mills Lane is and wouldn't get the reference if I went, let's get it on.
Let's get it on. Yeah, that was the original Bruce Buffer.
Yeah. So,
all right, Mark, your pick.
All right, I'm going to go a little bit old school for my first 2 picks. I will take the other person that was a cultural touchstone on multiple networks. I'll take the Jon Stewart Show from 1993 to 1995 on MTV, and introduced the world to Jon Stewart, who probably became one of the top important comedians in terms of just actual serious issues and teaching a generation about the world here. Essentially, it was a show that I did watch because my sister watched it at that age. So I will take the Jon Stewart Show as my first pick, which is kind of what I thought you were going with, Ant, when you did your whole open speech there.
Jackass is more important of a show.
Yeah. But I'll just say I didn't think you would say Jackass, to be honest. Yeah. And then I will go just because I like a good trivia show, and used to again blame my sister for having MTV on when I was younger. I'll take Remote Control
All right, Mark's going old school, real old school.
Yeah. I probably either watched it in reruns or her taped VHSs or something at the time, but I remember watching a few episodes and then, playing the NES game and having no idea really what I was doing, being young, but to some of the questions. But I'm always a sucker for a good game show.
Okay. All right. Dan, what about you?
All right. Second pick, I'm going with Total Request Live, hosted by Carson Daly.
Juggernaut.
Yeah, that one, that ran from the mid 90s all the way to the 2005, 6. It ran for quite a bit. It was huge in terms of just getting music videos out there. They, coming up with the top 10 music videos. And it ranged from Fastball to Britney Spears to Korn, Aerosmith. So you were getting so much variety on that show. And I mean, I remember running home because I knew the new Britney Spears video was coming on. I had to watch the new Britney Spears video.
Yeah, and remember the day when either they let us or we figured out that the voting was actually real when they put that New Kids on the Block song in the top 3 for one day, because everybody just decided, early internet Twitter thing of gathering people to just vote for this one song.
There you go.
And it ended up being the top 3 because apparently it was an actual voting system and not just MTV picking the videos and going, oh, this is what you voted for.
Yeah, fake voting, but I think a lot of young kids probably grew up with some of those videos, if you know what I mean.
That was our generation and got exposed to a lot of and learned a lot of things about ourselves from 1997 through 2001.
I'm looking at you, Christina Aguilera.
It was the most important program in music for a half decade.
Yeah, it was huge.
Yep. Kids today don't know the real cultural impact that Total Request Live and Carson Daly with his painted fingernails had.
I'm surprised because that's a show that really could have just lasted forever because music videos are still a thing. So
yeah. All right, it's my turn, and I got the snake. I am going to go not necessarily with the Juggernauts, but a show that introduced the world to 2 people that we really loved in the 90s. Talking about, of course, Jenny McCarthy and Carmen Electra. I am going with Singled Out.
You threw me through a loop there, man.
Where'd you think I was going with that?
I thought you were going Beavis and Butthead.
Oh, no.
As soon as you said 2 people, I was like, oh, God, it's Beavis and Butthead, isn't it?
No, Singled Out.
Singled Out.
I wanted to keep it a little variety in there, so I went with a game show that was stupid as hell, the precursor to the Nexts and the Room Raiders and what was the one with the boyfriend, the parental control, such great stuff. But no, Singled Out. My third pick, in the same vein as Beavis and Butthead, but a show I preferred much more, Daria. I am going with.
Damn it. That was my next pick.
I loved Daria. It's a fantastic show. It was on Hulu recently, and I think I burned through it in a weekend when it was on there.
Didn't they do a remake, or did they bring it back for a time not too long ago? I thought they might have done something like that.
It's really weird with some of those shows, how short the runs were.
Yeah, there's only 3 seasons, maybe 30 episodes.
Yeah, it's in another on a whole different topic or thing. Finding out that the only live aired shows of the Super Mario Brothers show was 4 months. It ran for 4 months in the fall one year.
And it's it only ran 4 months worth of new episodes, but they repeated those for 2 years.
Yeah, because someone said for those of you that don't know, and it said it started September 1989, ended December 1989.
Right. Yeah. It's like Salute Your Shorts when you realize it was 3 seasons and it was 26 episodes, but I'm I feel like I watched that show for 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah, same thing with Beavis and Butthead and Daria.
Yeah. All right, Dan. What's your next pick?
Yeah, that took the wind out of my sails there. 'Cause that's such a good show. All right. Well, I already got Total Request Live, so I'm not going to go with another music video show. I think I'm going to go with a very, very smaller known show, lesser known show, I should say. The Syphil and Ollie Show.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys remember. I mean, it sounds like you do.
Yeah.
But for the people at home who might not know, Syphil and Ollie Show was literally two sock puppets that would put on sketches. It's the most absurd thing, probably next to Tom Green. Like, it's up there with the Tom Green Show. I will say, after watching it a few years ago, it does not hold up. It's not very good. But the teenage or the preteen Dan loved this show for some reason. And I have fond memories of watching it with a mutual friend of ours. So I'm going to go with the Syphil and Ollie Show.
Nice. I don't actually remember watching it, but I do have a memory of a kid in school just constantly singing like just the opening song. I think it was just like the Syphil and Ollie Show. I think that's basically it.
Yeah, I think that's how it ends, because I was trying to remember the theme song as well. I do remember it ending on that like crescendo.
Yeah.
That's all I remember.
All right, Mark. 3 and 4.
I'll pick a show again. I didn't mean for all mine to be a little bit like pre-2000 MTV, but a show that really opened up young Mark to probably music he would have not heard on his own from the family he grew up in. But I was a huge fan of Yo MTV Raps. And the early to mid 90s to sliding in before TRL got big. That's how I found some of the, more rap R&B and stuff that really wasn't like my family was much more of a classic rock 70s family. And my sister was into like the bubblegum pop stuff before and then transitioned into grunge. So it opened my eyes to music that I still, enjoy today, and are part of my rotation. But I think it's another, as we keep saying, cultural touchstone when MTV actually was able to make those kind of shows that sort of have fond memories for everybody that ever tuned in. So yeah, I'll take a little Yo MTV Raps.
Okay.
And then
Mark's the old head on this one.
Yeah, I respect it though. Those are big shows.
And then I'll go with this maybe a slightly smaller show. I don't know how popular it was amongst people, but it did teach 13, 14-year-old Mark about some things that a young teenage boy likes to learn about. And here, I am going to go with Undressed, the little show that was just basically R-rated young adults in like college/high school. Just talking about sex, and it has probably the two known people that I can remember is the girl that plays the sister in Chuck was on it. I think her name's like Sarah Lawrence or something like that. And then the girl that's in Deuce Bigalow he makes her do the wet t-shirt at the end of the movie. They were both in it. And it was just a show that I don't know how long it was on or how many seasons or anything, but it was like a late night MTV show that I felt, I was sneaking behind my parents' back to sort of watch, and it has stuck with me. But I have not wanted to go back because it'll probably be, as the kids say today, very cringe. The way they just talked about, sex and sexual situations. And probably, to be honest, the first time I really had any heard any in-depth conversations or situations that involved younger people and like homosexuality. Because I think the closest thing would have been like Birdcage or something like that I would have experienced at that point. And yeah, just another thing that's just stuck in my head. Don't want to revisit it because I don't want to harm it. But yeah, Undressed. I believe it aired in like 1999, 2000.
The good old 10 spot. Remember that?
Yeah.
block of programming. Mark's a pervert though, watching Undressed when his parents aren't around. Shame,
Mark.
shame, shame.
Oh yeah.
Dan, fourth and final pick for you.
All right, fourth and final pick. I'm going to go with MTV Cribs.
MTV Cribs.
The show that would show you how awesome it was to be a celebrity and how shitty your life is.
And where the magic happens.
Yeah, I was going to introduce the phrase, this is where the magic happens.
There's one MTV Cribs episode that I remember vividly, and it's Sebastian Bach's MTV Cribs. Because I think he lives in New Jersey in like basically a log cabin, but it's an awesome log cabin. And he's a big collector of comic books. So I think he has the original Amazing Adventures with the Spider-Man, the first appearance of Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a bunch of comic books, like super rare comic books in these filing cabinets. And the filing cabinets are fireproof. And I just remember him saying, like, if this entire house burns down, the only things that are going to survive are the comic books. So I was like, man, this guy really loves his comics. That's pretty cool. And yeah, but it was just really fun, at 14, 15 to see how like Mariah Carey lives, or whoever the biggest sports star they had on, or rock stars. It was interesting to see what they did with the absurd amount of money they made. And usually it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, and going back, I just remember that this is where the magic happens line like permeated for even like as the show died down, because back in the old journalism days, I was doing we were doing like how the college athlete lives, and you would go to the apartments for Sports Illustrated, and one of the I believe it was either field hockey or volleyball that I was doing at Penn State. And we went through it, and we went to her bedroom, and she opened the door with me and the photographer and went, "This is where the magic happens." And then immediately got embarrassed. And I was like, well, it's not on video, so we can laugh about it. But like, that was like her first instinct. Like, she was doing the tour like MTV Cribs. And, it's always fun to see the things that stick in people's heads, and, even long after the popularity of the show ends.
Alrighty. As for me, I have a few left on my short list, and I want to pick them all, but I'm not. Some of them were the ones I'm not going to pick. I had Eon Flux, Liquid Television, some more lesser known, like 3 South. A lot of cartoons on there. Beavis and Butthead, The Real World. But what I'm going to pick, because I don't have a music show on here, and you guys do, so I'm going to pick MTV Unplugged.
Oh, that's a good one.
The greatest Nirvana album comes out of MTV Unplugged, as well as a great Alice in Chains.
It's absurd.
I think Kiss did an Unplugged episode.
Kiss. Pearl Jam's got one, I'm pretty sure. Great. Just a good show.
One of my favorite things from, because I have the CD for Nirvana Unplugged, and just the one line when he sings "Man Who Stole the World" or "Sold the World," and he ends it with "That's David Bowie."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean that's an iconic set that Nirvana Unplugged.
Yeah, it's real good. Yeah, when you said music show, Ant, I knew it was either one of two. But I didn't know how you leaned. It was either going to be that or Headbangers Ball.
Nope, I'm not a headbanger.
Yeah,
I was going to go with Sucker Free Sundays. Also, Wonder Chosen was on my short list. I don't know if you guys ever watched Wonder Chosen.
That's fucking amazing.
That's a pretty funny show.
Yeah.
Yeah, beat kids.
Kids on the beat. Kids on the street. Beat kids. Beat kids. Oh, man. Yep. So those are our lists. To run them down again.
Yeah, you can. Before we go to that, I just want to make a comment that you can tell the era that we grew up watching MTV a lot, because we did not have any 16 and Pregnant, Jersey Shore, any of that stuff on there.
No, absolutely not. My wife does love Teen Mom, though.
Teen Mom. Road Rules, Real World Challenge.
You know what I think was my least favorite show was My Sweet 16. Because
My Super Sweet 16, yeah.
My Super Sweet 16. Oh my god, the families in that show were just the worst.
I am.
Just the worst people imaginable.
Yeah.
All right, let's run them down real quick. My picks were Jackass, Singled Out, Daria, and MTV Unplugged. Dan was Celebrity Deathmatch, Total Request Live, Syphil on Ollie, and MTV Cribs. And Mark was the Jon Stewart Show, Remote Control, Yo, MTV Raps, and Undressed. So who's got the best list on here? Let us know. Hit us up on all our socials.
Yeah,
Speaking of
we get
social,
those Gen Xers out there. Come on.
Yeah, we are definitely not playing to the Gen Z crowd. I think Gen Z's head would explode if they watched any of these shows.
Everything would have just been canceled for sure. But it made me laugh, and when you posted on Twitter today that what we were covering, and you basically were saying you just had to be there, Gen Z wouldn't get it.
Yeah,
and no, they definitely wouldn't, and probably for good cause. Because things are way better now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we didn't even get it. 2/3 of us. But that's our show. Nice quick show week this week. But hit us up on all socials on Twitter, X formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram and Threads. I guess TikTam Pod. I keep forgetting that Threads exists, but we're on there. They Call This a Movie is on TikTok at They Call This a Movie, so check us out there as well. You got any questions, comments, you want to suggest a movie, tictampod@gmail.com. Great place to get a hold of us. And if you got a few seconds, if you want to give us a 5-star review on all your podcatcher of choice, just look for They Call This Movie, and that'd be very helpful. Also, check out our YouTube channel, where we post some things occasionally, little short versions of our full episodes with some video behind it, as well as the full-length podcasts. That is just search They Call This a Movie or TikTam Pod. I'm not even sure what where to find us, but you'll find us if you just search for They Call This a Movie. And I think those are all the ways to get a hold of us. So the director of Freddy Got Fingered is none other than Tom Green. So for Dan Aquino and Mark Myers, is Anthony Delvecchio telling Tom Green, well, you certainly made a movie, didn't you? Thanks for listening to They Call This a Movie. Subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to check us out on Twitter and Instagram at TicTamPod. That's TCTAM Pod. You can also check us out on TikTok at They Call This a Movie.